exactly what you needed. Nothing changed except how you asked. In this unit, you'll learn how to structure prompts that control what Perplexity returns, how to use search operators to filter sources, and how to apply frameworks that turn complex questions into complete, auditable answers. The same question, two answers. Today, you're preparing for a budget meeting and need a clear comparison of three offsite cities. You open Perplexity and type the first thing that comes to mind. What's the problem with that response? The response was too long and covered too many cities at once. Perplexity didn't search enough sources to return useful information. The prompt wasn't structured enough, so the answer stayed general. The response you get is a direct reflection of the prompt you send. There are three key things you can control to change that. Action, verb, context, output, format. Let's work through each one. Action command. See the difference? The first word of your prompt sets the direction. Compare, summarize, list, explain, analyze. Each one tells Perplexity what to do with the information, not just what to find. Without it, Perplexity chooses the format for you. Adding context. So the verb tells Perplexity what to do, but context tells it what matters. Without it, Perplexity answers for everyone, which usually means for no one in particular. Time frame, domain, and constraints are the layers that turn a broad question into a targeted one. Try adding them to the city comparison. Great. That's how time frame surfaces availability and seasonal factors. Constraints eliminate options that don't fit. Without these layers, Perplexity answers accurately, but not specifically for you. You ran the context-rich comparison and got a clear recommendation. You paste it straight into a slide deck. What's the most likely problem? The context layers made the answer too specific to be useful for a broader audience. The content is right, but it came back not in a shape that works on a slide. The recommendation needs more supporting detail before it's ready to present. Controlling output format. The content is right, but the shape isn't. Perplexity chooses a format if you don't specify one, and prose is the default. When you need a table, a bullet list, or a structured summary, say so directly inside the prompt. One phrase, and the output arrives ready to use. Let's try it. Good job. You've now seen what each layer does. Verb sets the direction. Context adds relevance. Format instructions make the output usable without editing. Now, imagine you need all of that to complete a work task and create a fully presentable output for a specific market and product type. Let's build it in one prompt. Looking back at the full prompt, action verb, context, and format instruction, how were those layers helpful? The action verb told Perplexity what to do with the information, not just what to find. The more layers in a prompt, the more sources Perplexity searches across. The context made the answer specific to the actual decision: budget, timeline, audience. The format instruction meant no editing between the output and the presentation. And that's what you just built. A prompt where every layer did its job, structured, sourced, and ready to present, with no editing or follow-up needed. The same approach works just as well for a quick personal question as for a professional deliverable. You now know how to control what Perplexity returns: the structure, the context, and the format. Next, you'll learn how to use search operators and filters to make sure the right sources come back in the first place. No outdated data, no off-topic results. On to the next one. Search operators and filters. In the last lesson, you learned how to shape what Perplexity returns: the verb, the context, the format. But even a well-structured prompt can return opinion pieces instead of reports, or outdated data. That's where search operators can help. In this lesson, you'll learn how to use them to tell Perplexity exactly where to look, what to find, and how recent it needs to be. What are search operators? Search operators are short commands you add directly to your search. They control where Perplexity looks and what it surfaces. Think of them as filters you apply before the search runs. Without operators, Perplexity decides which sources to pull from. With them, you decide. A personal question works fine without operators. But the moment source type, recency, or precision matters, operators close that gap. Which type of search benefits most from using a search operator? Looking up the best coffee shops in your neighborhood. Finding current pricing data for a competitive analysis. Now imagine the same search principle applied to something where the source matters, like finding current pricing data or an industry report. For that, a standard search isn't enough. That's where operators come in. There are 4 worth knowing, each one solving a different problem. Here's what each operator does. Cite filters. Cite. Restrict results to a specific domain. File type filters. File type. Surface a specific document type, such as PDF or doc. Date filters. After/before. Force results within a specific time window. Quotes match an exact phrase rather than individual words. Restricting by source. Let's start with cite, the operator that controls where Perplexity looks. Add it to any search, and Perplexity pulls only from that domain. No competing pages, no off-topic results. Use it when the source matters as much as the answer. See how that looks like on a simple personal question first. What did the cite operator do? It told Perplexity where to look before the search ran, so only that domain's content was eligible. It filtered the results after the search ran, removing lower quality sources. It signaled the question was technical, prompting Perplexity to prioritize more authoritative sources. That's how the source operator works. Note that it returned 10 sources only from the specific site you requested. The same operator works just as well for professional research. Restricting to a trusted publication means credible, relevant sources appear from the start. Now, let's look at the next operator, which controls the type of document that comes back. Finding specific document types. Some information only exists inside documents. Research reports, white papers, official papers, not on web pages. If what you need is in a PDF or a Word file, rather than an article, web results won't get you there. That's what file type solves. Add file type PDF or file type doc to any search, and Perplexity surfaces the documents directly. The reports and research papers that web pages only ever summarize. Let's say you need to find research on sleep patterns. File type PDF went straight to the source documents where the actual data lives. Perplexity also lets you download research papers from the search results. But sometimes, Perplexity returns data more than 10 years old. And in a fast-moving research field, that's a problem. When the data needs to be current, you need to control the time window. That's what the next operator is for. Filtering by date. Date filters control exactly which time range your results come from. Add after or before to any search, and Perplexity only returns results inside that window. Everything outside it is excluded before the search runs. Use them whenever an old source would actively mislead rather than inform. Pricing data, market reports, product releases, regulatory updates. Let's apply one now. What does the date filter do to your search results? It tells Perplexity to prioritize more recent sources while still including older ones lower down. It improves result quality by signaling the search needs current information. It sets a hard boundary. Everything outside that window was excluded before the search ran. Every result inside the window, nothing outside it. That's the date filter keeping the results where they need to be. Now, there's one more precision tool worth knowing. For when the words are right, but the context needs to be more exact. Putting a phrase in quotes tells Perplexity to match those words exactly, in that order. With quotes, a search for machine learning algorithm list returns only results where that exact phrase appears. Let's say you need to find Apple's financial reports specifically. That's the kind of search where quotes make the difference. Exact phrase matching. See how financial reports came back specific, not scattered results about Apple's earnings calls or investor commentary in unrelated contexts. The quotes matched the exact phrase before the search ran, which is why every result pointed to the same specific thing. Combining operators. Each operator solves one problem, but combined, they close all the gaps at once. Source, format, recency, and precision in a single search. Let's add everything together. What did combining all four operators give you that a standard search wouldn't? A more comprehensive answer, because each operator added a new layer of research depth. a result that required less verification because the operators pre-validated the sources. Control over the source, format, and recency before the search ran, so the first result was already the right one. You now know how to tell Perplexity not just what to find, but where to look, what format to return, and how recent the results need to be. In the next lesson, you'll learn how to fix one of the most common research problems, getting Perplexity to think through a complex problem step by step instead of jumping straight to a conclusion. Let's move forward. Chain of thought and structured frameworks. You ask a question that involves multiple moving parts: costs, people, timing, and risks. Getting a single recommendation back is a start. Getting the reasoning behind it, broken down step by step, is what makes it usable. In this lesson, you'll learn two techniques that take your Perplexity results from solid to genuinely useful. Your manager asks you to evaluate whether your team should switch from Slack to Microsoft Teams. Perplexity returns an analysis. You want to get a more structured result. What's the better move? Run a follow-up prompt after the analysis comes back so that Perplexity gives more detail. Ask Perplexity to reason through each factor separately so the logic is visible in the first prompt. Structuring the prompt from the start is what makes the difference, not chasing the reasoning through follow-up questions afterward. When the reasoning is built into the request, the output comes back broken down by factor, visible, and ready to present. There are two techniques that can make the answer more structured. The first asks Perplexity to show its reasoning step by step. The second ensures every important dimension of the question gets covered. Let's start with the first. Chain of thought prompting. Chain of thought prompting asks Perplexity to reason through a problem before returning an answer. You add a simple instruction to any complex prompt: think through this step by step, or reason through each factor before concluding. And the response shows its work instead of jumping to a conclusion. Let's see the difference with the Slack to Teams example. That answer gave you a recommendation. What's missing that would make it useful when presenting to your manager? A stronger recommendation. The answer left too much room for doubt. The reasoning, how each factor was weighed and why one outweighed the others. More details on the technical differences between the two tools. Let's see what changes when you ask Perplexity to reason through it before answering. Good job. Add a reasoning instruction when the question has competing factors, dependencies, or trade-offs, and when you need to present or defend the conclusion. Now, there's one more thing worth getting right before the reasoning even starts. Making sure every dimension of the question is in the prompt. The 5 Ws and H framework. Who, what, when, where, why, and how, applied to a prompt, they force Perplexity to cover every dimension of a topic rather than just the most obvious ones. Where chain of thought surfaces the reasoning, 5 Ws and H make sure every dimension gets covered in the first place. Without this structure, complex questions get partial answers, because nothing in the prompt told Perplexity to dig deeper. The framework is the instruction to cover the whole picture. Let's try applying it. What made this answer useful for presenting to your manager? It covered every dimension that affects the decision, so nothing important would come up as a surprise question afterward. It gave a more confident conclusion because the structure removed ambiguity from the recommendation. It was easier to read because the headers made the answer visually cleaner. You can apply this framework when a question has multiple stakeholders, decisions, or dependencies embedded in it. It works for tool decisions, process changes, team planning, and any topic where a partial answer creates downstream problems. The framework makes it complete. Combining both techniques, chain of thought and the 5 Ws and H framework solve different problems. One surfaces reasoning, the other ensures coverage. On the most complex questions, you need both. The framework earns its place when acting on the answer involves more than one person, more than one step, or more than one thing that could go wrong. When that's the case, a flat answer leaves gaps that only show up later. In a manager question you can't answer, a rollout nobody owns, or a timeline nobody agreed on. The framework closes those gaps before they open. Unit complete. You started this unit knowing how to search. You're finishing it knowing how to prompt. Specifying structure, reasoning, source type, and format before the answer even comes back. That's a step up from where